Hello and welcome to the very special Sunday edition of the Arn and Eddie podcast. I'm Eddie Sideburns, unfortunately with no gelato and no Italian newspaper to talk about whether Roberto Baggio is going to be some great big deal or whether Inter are making the right decision signing Javier Zanetti. And I'm joined by Arn Furious. When I'm pointing the wrong way, it's there. There we go. Arn, how you doing? You okay?
I'm good. I'm very well. Introduce the guest, Eddie.
And yes, of course. And obviously, for he's wearing his lovely, beautiful Columbia top.
That is a beauty.
We're here to talk retro football with the one and only Alan Forel. Alan, how you doing? You all right?
I am doing wonderful. I am doing fantastic. I'm a little concerned about the fact that we're on camera here. I'm not used to it. So all the sneaky things I usually do when I'm recording podcasts that I can get away with by just hitting mute and nobody knows anything, I can't get away with here. And I'm not even going to try. So if I just start eating my chocolate bar, you're going to have to deal with it, guys.
Sometimes you need that energy boost when you're talking. Is fine.
Yeah, and I'm planning on staying up for a pay-per-view here tonight, and I've been dealing with my parents coming in today, which is an energy sapper for a couple hours, and then doing some housework that needed to be done. And then right before we started recording, I was told I needed to have a haircut if I was going to appear on camera. So I do a last-minute trip to the barber. The barber is my wife, as it has been for the last year. So freshly shorn.
She's done a fine job.
It's not too bad. She's had a good bit of practice. I usually, like, before the pandemic, I'd go like 3 months before getting my hair cut. It would always be a state, but Sarah insists I get a cut like every month or so nowadays. She'll come after me, chase me around the house with the clippers.
Yeah, I had mine trimmed yesterday, so it's looking pretty neat and tidy.
Mm-hmm. Well, honestly, it's really good. I've been so excited to talk to you about this because we're not obviously normally on the Arn Eddie. We have someone who talks about their favorite club, their favorite team, and kind of all their history of all stuff like that. However, we're going to be talking about retro football with yourself, Alan.
Because I don't know anything about modern football, but I do plan on watching Euro 2021 or Euro 2020. Sorry, and I watched most of the Champions League final last night. So there you go.
Yeah, there we go. So the years, what were the years again? It was
1995 and 2002. That was what.
Yeah, that would be my peak. I'd even extended a bit earlier to 94 because I was all in on USA 94. I still have my USA 94 Coca-Cola shaped like the World Cup trophy Coca-Cola glass that I got in a petrol station. Got in a petrol station, or my dad got in the petrol station and gave to me when he was filling up the car with petrol when I was a kid. And still have that glass. The Coca-Cola is kind of faded off it now, but it still looks like the shape of the World Cup. So I treat that with good care.
Yeah, that must be a sight to behold. So in terms of your football kind of history and your background, what was your first was that kind of your first experience of football, or was it before that?
I was signed by the Man United Academy at the tender age of 4. And
they like to get him young.
By 7, I felt I'd reached my peak. I wanted to move in a different direction with my life, so I decided to leave there. No, Funnily, United were probably the first team I supported because they were so I didn't know anything about football. I was not in a football. There you go. There's the lads. Oh, no, that's the team I hate now as well. We'll get to in a bit. But,
these things change.
I did not grow up in a football household. One sister didn't like football. Mom didn't know anything about any sports, and my dad was into water stuff, like sailing was his big thing, canoeing, that kind of stuff. Never into football at all. So I was not really privy. There was never football on in my house. And then as I got a little bit older, certain friends were more kind of getting into football, but when football would come on in their house, I'd just go back home or whatever. I didn't want to watch it. If their dad turned on, we were watching wrestling or some movie or something like that, and my friend's dad would come in and matches going on. I'd have no interest. I'd head on off home. But then my friends kind of got more and more into it. So it was I remember specifically the I want to say 93 Coca-Cola Cup final. A bunch of friends on the road that I grew up in were all getting together watching it. So that would have been 7 going on 8. And I was like kind of feeling, kind of feel a bit left out on this one now. Everyone's really amped up for this, and I don't know what's going on. I don't care. And the following season, I started to kind of pay a bit more attention, find out who the people were when I was in school. No, then it was 93, 94, because it was definitely United in the Coca-Cola Cup final.
Oh, I get you.
I think they played Villa, maybe? Does that sound right? Check that out.
He'll do his quick check, so carry on.
Yeah, I think it was a United Villa Coca-Cola Cup
that's
final.
the one.
Yeah, there you go. So the following season, then I just tried to kind of understand a bit more about what was going on with football. And one early memory I had is that I think the first player I knew was Ryan Giggs, but to me he was Brian Giggs because I had never heard the name Ryan before. It was my first time coming across that name, so I just knew him as
Not
Brian
many Irish
Giggs.
Ryans.
And I remember saying Brian Giggs like amongst other kids in class and getting just an absolute slag. He's not Brian Giggs, Ryan Giggs, and I felt very embarrassed then, of course. So that's inspired me then to just completely know everything I needed to know about football. And like a year later, I was like. So, lads, Nigel Worthington, what do we think this season? It's like, that's not how you pronounce Hugo Ehiog. So I had become what I had to deal with the year prior. So, but USA 94 kind of happened right in the midst of all that. And Ireland were in it, so it was a big deal. And I remember going to like a big function where like loads of families and stuff and kids running around, and the Ireland Italy match USA 94 was on. Mm-hmm. And that was the time Ray Houghton scored the goal, and I just remember everyone going mental. And I pretty much watched most of that tournament. Didn't really understand a lot what was happening, but kind of lapped it up. And when you're a kid, you're like a sponge with this stuff. So I came out of USA 94 knowing a heck of a lot more about football than I did going into it. And then, as I said, like kind of picking teams, just everyone kind of supported Man United. So I was like, I support Man United. And I remember specifically wanting to get a jersey, and I wanted to get the yellow and green jersey that they had. My dad was like, not only was my dad not a football fan, he was also staunchly against the rip-off merchants that were the football teams trying to sell jerseys and how much they cost, like just paying £30 or whatever it would have cost for a jersey in the mid-90s. Like, just no way, shape, or form. Just wasn't going to happen. So my bright idea was to get a long-sleeve white T-shirt, and I asked my parents if I could paint it half yellow, half green. And that didn't happen. I don't know why. Maybe it started to happen. It just wasn't looking very good, and I just abandoned ship. But I abandoned ship on Man United pretty quickly afterwards because a fellow stole my heart when I saw the football highlights on some Saturday afternoon, and he banged in what I believe was the first hat-trick I had ever heard of. 3 goals in a game. One Andy Cole, and I was like, whoa, this guy. This guy's the business. And I whatever reason, I loved the look of the black and white jerseys of Newcastle. Arn, you are quick at this. My God, you are sharp.
Mate.
But I just loved the look of those jerseys, and I was like, well, this is my team. And I just got really into them really quickly, and like Rule Fox, Scott Sellers, Peter Kitson, all these guys, Peter Beardsley, obviously. And then Andy Cole was my favorite player. Then it became Rob Lee. Rob Lee was my guy. And I remember being so happy when Rob Lee got into the England team in, I think, 95. And he played a friendly and he scored for England. And I remember we were with my granny in Galway, and I remember driving somewhere and on the radio hearing Rob Lee scored for England. And I was like, yes, Rob Lee. Oh, I'm so happy for him. I was made up, and I just got massively into football.
I remember with Rob Lee, I'd have to keep complaining to my friends, going like, "Why is Rob Lee not in the England squad? Look at all the goals he bangs in for Newcastle." It was a big debate that season because he scored like 20-something goals in the league from midfield.
Yeah, and it was it was really the thing that kickstarted Newcastle's first half.
I've got a correction from Alan Blackstock. This Andrew Cole, he doesn't like being called Andy anymore.
That was after he left. That was after he left. To me and Newcastle fans, it was always Andy. And I had already my relationship with Andy Cole had already soured by that point, because jumping a little ahead here, I've told the story a few times, so for anyone who's heard it, I apologize. But my best friend when I was a kid, his dad was involved in some kind of shady, unscrupulous sports management bullshit. I can't curse on here, right?
Sorry. It's okay.
Correct.
It's okay.
That's correct.
It's okay. It's okay. You're allowed to get away with it once. So
shady, corrupt sports management stuff in the 90s, as it would have been, and they launched it was one of the big sports management guys in the UK, and they launched basically an Irish company based in Ireland in, I think, 95, and it was about a month or two after Andy Cole moved to United. And I remember late at night, one night, going to bed and hearing about Andy Cole leaving Newcastle, and all we got in return was like a couple of million and Keith Gillespie. I was like, Keith Gillespie, what? I was like, oh no, it was heartbreaking. I was just so disappointed with this, and I just couldn't forgive Andy Cole. And I've seen stuff with him since where he's talked about how he didn't want to leave, and he was basically told he kind of had to leave. They wanted the money for him, and it was too good an offer to turn down. But he was really gutted about leaving. But I did not take his side in this at the time. And Andy Cole was one of the clients of this sports management company, and they had basically a launch function in one of the hotels in Dublin, and it was like family were allowed there or whatever. It was just kind of a big kind of like fancy event, and so my friend's dad brought him along, and his older sister didn't want to go, so like, okay, bring Alan with you. So I got to go to this fancy affair, and I remember my friend, it was like his parents made him dress up in like a nice shirt and tie. He was like 9 years old or something. But I got into the car with him. He was wearing a nice shirt and tie, and I was wearing my tracksuit bottoms, my Newcastle hat, and like an Adidas jumper with my Newcastle jersey underneath. And his parents made me take off the Newcastle hat before going in. I'm sure there was nothing they could do about the rest of it. They just had to just eat the embarrassment on that. So go into this function. I remember going around getting autographs. Tony Cascarino, Jason Sherlock, who you might not know, but he was big in Ireland at that time. Dublin just won the All-Ireland Gaelic football that year, and he was like the star of the team. Okay. So there's a bunch of golfers, and I think there's some other football players. I can't really remember. But Andy Cole was there. And I remember we went up to meet Andy Cole. And my friend's dad was like, do you guys want to meet Andy Cole? And my friend was actually a United fan. So he was like, yeah. And I was like... And we went up to him. And we got handed a pen. And it was like, you want to get Andy's autograph there? And... I had the pen in my hand, and I threw the pen at him, lifted up my jumper over my head, pointed at the Newcastle crest, and just goes, I hate you, you traitor. And I ran off. And poor Andy Cole. I hope he wasn't too upset over that. And I wasn't brought on any more functions with that family.
It's just the idea of throwing the pen at Andy.
Yeah, I hit him right in the head. I can't forget it. Right in the face.
And that's the moment you'll always remember to tell about chart topping number 75 in the UK charts and striker Andy Cole.
Yeah.
Oh,
Alan,
So,
I've known you for years. Why have I never heard that story? You
feel like
saving it for this moment.
I feel like I've told it to death that I've probably stopped telling it because I'm like, everyone's heard this already a million times, and I'm sure there's people listening that have. But shades of Eamon Dunphy, love that in the chat. The I'm trying to think where we got off onto Andy Cole. But yeah, Rob Lee. Oh yeah, Rob Lee became my favorite player, and
mm-hmm.
he was like integral in that season where Newcastle basically launched their title challenge, and the first half of the season he was just banging in goals for fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just like you're a sponge at that age, and I just became the biggest football fan. I was collecting the sticker albums, I was reading teletext. Oh, and that's what I was going to say is I had been. It's like 92, 93 before I got into football. Like I was really getting into wrestling. I probably discovered wrestling late 91. And
Is
92,
teletext going to confuse Eddie? I'm checking here. Is teletext confused you? Are you too young for
because you
teletext?
go on no, because you go on teletext, you press the numbers 888 and you get subtitles. And then there's another one.
You press 303 on a Saturday afternoon to get the latest scores.
Yep.
312 to get best of the rest and news roundup and all this stuff.
Gives you a TV guide as well of what's happening as well.
300. Oh, that's CFAX, mate.
Oh yeah, so yeah, the BBC one.
CFAX.
I called them all teletext though. RTE's was called Airtel, I think. Someone can correct me on that if there's any Irish in there. But the there was teletext was ITV, right? Wasn't it? But
yeah.
I called them all.
CFAX
Yeah, I called them all teletext, but CFAX would have probably been the one I used the most.
Okay.
And so like I kind of went from it probably coincided to there was a few months where we didn't have Sky One. I went off the sort of basic package that we had, so I couldn't watch wrestling. So I was just getting my wrestling stuff from whatever friends would record or what I'd see in their house and getting the magazines in '94. So I wasn't able to watch as much wrestling as I was. So wrestling wasn't consuming as much in my brain. Don't worry, it was still consuming a lot of my brain, but not as much. It made room for football, and football came in. I was just like, yeah, football was huge for me all those years. Yeah, I just all through then 95, 96 was just this roller coaster journey of being a Newcastle fan. Anyone who followed around then knows what a harrowing season that was. And yeah, I would find out they wouldn't all be like that very soon, but that was a memorable one.
Yeah, and so that was kind of when, so obviously Newcastle and obviously the Kevin Keegan era, and obviously the I'd love it if we beat them and stuff like that going on. Yep, there he is. When did you so obviously that's kind of touching on the English league. When did you kind of learn about obviously European football at the time and kind of like Serie A and stuff like that? When you realized that was a thing?
I remember. Okay, this could be going on another weird tangent that might take a minute.
We're fine. We're fine. We knew you were going to be tangible at sign. Don't worry.
So, a lot of kids my age in Dublin would have joined football clubs when they're around my age. There's a few different ones, and I remember going to. I loved playing football in the park and stuff like that. I wasn't amazing or anything, but like I could hold my own, and had fun playing matches. And I remember going to all the clubs would have these like trials, which were essentially just a load of kids running around like headless chickens. And I don't know what they'd look for or whatever in terms of deciding probably just whoever really actually wanted to and kind of pushed for it. But I went to one of these trials and I hated it. I hated like just the fact that like, I don't know, I can't even remember specifically what it was I hated about it, but I hated it. Just kind of the organization pressure of it. Not even that it was probably that pressurizing, but to me in my head it was. And so I was like, I don't want to join a team. This is not. I don't want to have to play proper matches, and I just kind of want to play for fun.
Just have a kick around.
Yeah. And so this is going in a dark corner now. Warning you in advance.
Oh God.
I had another best friend. So when you're a kid, you have a bunch of best friends. So I had my school best friend, and then my neighbor across the road best friend, who was the one we talked about earlier. So my school best friend, Kevin Cunningham. Shout out Kevin if you're watching. We had a fight when we were like 11. Haven't really talked to him since. I don't think. But
would be a weird way to reconnect.
Yeah, we had a fight playing football actually in my garden. He just went mental and like kicked a plant, and I got really upset that he kicked the plant for some reason. And yeah, our friendship ended on that note. But so he lived across the road from this. Like he lived in a pretty expensive kind of. His dad was a doctor and like a heart surgeon, I think, and he lived on a pretty like nice road, like lots of big houses. And across the road from him was this particularly huge house with loads of land around it, and big driveway, all this kind of stuff. So I didn't know what was in there. It'd be kind of something you'd go past. And anyway, he had an older brother. Probably about like we were, so I guess we would have been about 10, and his older brother would have been about 13. And his older brother and his friends had joined this football group. Like it wasn't a team. It was like basically they were going in and playing football on a pitch that was attached to this giant mansion. And there was these guys that ran this thing, and they were like, it was hard to describe kind of what I thought it was at the time, but it was basically, as I would come to understand, it was some kind of like they had some kind of religious church kind of connection to different places around the world, and they'd bring like we called it the name we called it was the Mexicans. So like that was, we were going like, do you want to go over to the Mexicans? They weren't Mexican people. It was just, that was the name of the house and where we played. It was just called the Mexicans. And kids would come over from Mexico a couple of times, I remember. And then, but anyway, so we started going over and playing with his older brother and his friends, and then a couple more of our friends played. Soon enough, there was like, I don't know, maybe 14 of us maybe playing out on this pitch, just having matches for fun and stuff like that. And then it eventually kind of became a thing where they would bring over kids from Mexico, and I think kids came over from somewhere else at some point, and they would do all these activities with this religious group, and we would play them in a soccer match. And like I remember we got jerseys, and it was kind of like, it was really cool. It was kind of what we thought. And it was,
I dread to think where this is going.
So
I'm on edge.
Like I just remember playing a lot of football over there, and kind of was completely innocent, kind of thought nothing of it, but that was kind of where we were playing most of our football. Like we'd finish school, we'd go to Kevin's house, we'd go across the road, play a load of football at the Mexicans. And the guys, like I think there was maybe like 2 or 3 of them, and they were probably like priests. But like to me, living in Catholic Ireland, Dublin, like a priest was they fit one kind of image. Like it was our local priests who dressed all the same, and like guys wearing casual clothes without a collar, that kind of, like I wouldn't have seen them as a priest, but they were probably had some kind of religious position. And they were running this thing, and I remember they had, like, to tie it into how it kind of got into European football, they had like all these posters of different players from like Germany. I remember there was a Rudi Voller poster, loads of guys from Italy, Baggio, all these guys that were around. And I knew some of them from USA 94 and stuff, but they would talk about like the European football and stuff, and then Gazzetta Football Italia kind of became a big thing, and I remember we started watching that, and I remember specifically during one of the games of football, we were all going, "Go Lazio, go Lazio!" I think it was "Go Lazio," as everyone did back then, and so like that was kind of getting me more into kind of European football. The Mexicans came to a sad end. We started getting in. So a couple of things. I remember when we played the kids that came over from Mexico, I remember being really intimidated, and it wasn't a fun experience because, again, we were like 10, and some of these kids had like beards and were maybe like a foot taller than us, 2 foot taller than us, a lot broader than us, and they were just like throwing us like these were 15-year-olds every bit of the way. Like these were big lads, and like there was a couple of older guys on our team, the older brothers and stuff, and but like the younger, smaller ones of us, like this was just not fun. Just getting bashed around by these like 5'10" lads coming over with their mustaches and their armpit hair and just not. It wasn't that. It was not what we were used to. So we didn't like that.
So in my head, that.
Close enough.
Close. Okay.
Yeah, getting there. Maybe Dominic Mysterio a little bit, because he still looks like he's like 15.
I don't even want to know what you searched to get that image, unless you maybe just
Mexican mustache. what do you think I searched?
I didn't want to know. So carry on, Al.
I just kind of think of Dominic Mysterio because he's like a big strapping. Yeah, like that's exactly what I have in my head, but just with sort of bitty facial hair as well. So didn't like playing those lads. They just destroyed us. And then there was another experience I didn't like, where, as I mentioned, they'd bring these kids over and do different activities with them. And there was like, they asked us, they were short on numbers or something, or maybe they just wanted some of the Irish lads that came to the thing to just hang out with some of these lads that were these visitors, these guests, and kind of go and do some activity with them. And different people didn't want to for whatever reason, and me and one pal decided, okay, yeah, we'll go, we'll do this. So me and Lorcan Ward decided, hey, we'll go, and another friend that I fell out with at a young age. I beat him at tennis. No, he smashed. It was in a tennis tournament when we were 12. And he smashed a ball at the umpire, who was this really nice lady who lived up my road called Jane. And Jane got a tennis ball in the head before Lorcan ran home crying because I beat him in a 3-set thriller. But played some great tennis that day. But lost a friend. But anyway, me and Lorcan back 2 years earlier at this point probably decided we would go along for this, whatever this activity was. And we were brought out to like a farm or something, I think. Eddie's face there. We were brought out to this farm. And I'm not a big animal guy. And there were these horses. And they wanted us to get up on the horses to take photos of us for like a book or something. All I remember was there was cameras and horses, and we were kind of being forced a little too forcefully to get up on the horses. And I wanted no part of this, and I was like, fuck this. So I did not like that. I went home, I complained to my parents. It was the 90s. My parents didn't take much umbrage with it, I guess, for whatever reason. Or maybe I just didn't paint a bad enough picture of it, because I just didn't. I was like, oh, I don't like horses. So then it all came to a crashing end. I remember there was a day where we rarely went inside of the house. Maybe it would just be occasionally to go in and get like drinks or whatever between matches or after matches, but we wouldn't go far in. There was just like this little kind of what's the prefab kind of room that was like attached, that it was like basically on the pitch, and you could go in and kind of get drinks and stuff like that from in there. And one day we went in a bit further than that. They had us go in, and they wanted to do breathing exercises with us, where basically they had us close our eyes and pray.
Oh,
And
no.
there was praying involved and eyes being closed involved. And as best I can remember, unless I've just blocked something out due to trauma, nothing. I was not touched. I do not recall being touched. We can safely say. But when we went home to Kevin's house after, and Bernie Cunningham, Kevin's mom, God bless her, asked how we got on, and we told her about the eyes closing and the closed and the praying, Bernie Cunningham went right over there, and I don't know what she said to them, but I'd say she gave them some kind of bollocking, and we were never back there again. We were never allowed near the place again. So way to go, Bernie.
Just a mental note for you here, Eddie. You're not asking another guest if they've watched Futbol Italia on Channel 4. It's a dark road we don't want to go down.
I messaged Alan, I extended a link to this show telling him, you should tune in, it'll be quite fun. He's tuned in just at this moment. Oh. Yeah.
I do remember I remember I scored a sweet goal from the halfway line one day, though, so it was all worth it.
And you didn't get molested officially, so
as best I can remember. But if I did, it was the 90s. It was okay then. Sorry, it's Ireland. We have enough to deal with our own frickin' priests. We don't need foreign priests coming in. There was enough problems with the Irish Catholic Church. We didn't need these lads coming in from afar with their own brand of diddling.
Yeah, and the Rudy Voller posters and stuff.
Yeah. Rudy Voller with his mustache. That should have.
Rudy Voller.
It probably wasn't Rudy Voller. It probably wasn't Rudy Voller. It was probably some 80s porn star.
How can you tell the difference, though? I'm not Googling 80s porn star. That's going to get us in a lot of trouble.
But I love Gazzetta. Gazzetta was awesome every Saturday morning.
Yeah, James Richardson. What man. So kind of oh goodness me, where do we go from there? I'm kind of worried about any question.
Eddie grew up in the 2000s, Arn. He didn't have to worry about the diddling and stuff that was just around every corner when we were kids.
No, my childhood was just other things.
Yeah, that didn't happen where I grew up. We used to go and play football over the road on the school field. That was not, as far as I know, none of our school teachers were paedophiles, so I think we were safe. Relatively, yeah, I got chased off by the groundsman once because we were playing in the goals.
Chased off. Did you start wrestling after that, Arn?
No, we just legged it.
For redacted reasons, I can't talk about one of my high school gym teachers. But yeah, moving on, very on. So yeah, obviously that your introduction into Gazzetta Futbol was on TV at the time. You're watching that. Did you, like Newcastle? Did you find a team from Gazzetta Futbol Italia that you kind of grew attached to, or a player that was like Rob Lee or Andrew Cole?
Well, not to pull the wool. What is the phrase? Pull the curtain back of my Roma fandom that may not be as long term as people may think. It's a relatively recent thing that's transpired. But I think when I was a kid, due to the jersey similarity, I think Juve were my favorite Italian team. But I don't think I felt as strongly about those. I had my hands full with Newcastle. There was enough going on there. I didn't need that much more drama. So I love Del Piero. Del Piero was my favorite player in Italy. He was class.
Yeah. It's one of those things when you watch the old Gazettas that are on. There he is. I love that kit. It's one of those just memorable.
Yeah.
It sticks in your. It
As much
sticks
as I
with you.
dislike Juventus, they have some really nice kits.
Serie A had a lot of great kits. You look at the Parma kit. You look at the Fiorentina kit.
Italians are just more stylish than us. That's why they have better kits. That's my take.
They were. So that was Juve. You have a Roma. I think your Roma loving, or people kind of talking about your Roma loving, comes in from your championship manager 0102. Is 0102 or is it 0001?
It's 0001, which is the less acclaimed game. But what I've decided is I'm getting so it's my birthday in a couple of days. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
And I'm getting a new laptop. Thank you to my wife. And I've decided when I get the new laptop, instead of trying to transfer over all the Roma stuff, because I'll be honest, I haven't loaded up the Roma Championship Manager game in about 6 months now.
Okay.
I think I got about 9 seasons in, 11 seasons in, something like that. And it's basically all fake players now.
Okay.
I think Toddy's still hanging on, but aside from that, it's pretty much all fake players on my team. And it would be kind of awkward to kind of move over all the data files and everything to the new laptop. So I think I'm going to boot up 0102 and start a game from fresh with the new laptop. It'll be my summer project. And
you playing that old version of Championship Manager is why I went out and bought Football Manager 2019, and now I have blown like 3,000 hours on Football Manager over the last 2 years. So thanks.
It's the only way to do it.
Yeah,
it's the only way to do it. If you put something on the telly while you're playing it, then you can at least feel like you're multitasking. So,
I like stats too much, so I'm always looking at stats and stuff. I don't want the distraction.
I might stick with Roma, but I may. We'll see. We'll see how I feel. I might want to move somewhere other than Serie A. We might want to give La Liga a chance. So see what happens.
Yeah, and I mean, over that course of that Championship Manager 0001, who were the players that you kind of? Because we might as well. Apparently, as JP thinks for a Football Manager podcast, who were the players that you kind of clinged onto in that, and like, oh my god, I want to see them in real life, or kind of, oh, I want to see how they played in real life?
At the time, when I was
just
younger,
in general.
The first Championship Manager I had was the Italian version, the blue version of CM2. So in CM2 had one version which was just the English league, and they came out with the blue version, which was just the Italian league. And so that was the first one I got. And then the big hype was for CM2 97, 98, where you could have all the leagues in one game. And depending on the like power of your computer, which like it's probably insane to think of how little was actually required compared with modern computers, but at the time it would have put a strain on even the best computers to like run more than 4 leagues in CM2 97, 98. So but you could pick any one to do, so that was like a huge groundbreaking game for them, and I think that really kind of took it to the next level. And like everyone in my class was playing that game. Like we would go over to each other's houses and have Championship Manager parties. It was great. So good. Arn, did you ever try to experiment with like the versions where you could play like essentially online? It wasn't like really through the internet. It probably was. I don't know how it worked, but it was more it was maybe more mechanical than just like online gaming nowadays. There was like, you had to do stuff with wires and stuff like that, but I never tried it. But I know it was a function.
No,
network play, that's what they called it, wasn't it? Yeah.
Until I got into like the Netflix era, basically when Love Film stopped sending out discs and I had to actually get a decent internet connection to watch films. That's the point at which I actually went and got fiber because the broadband around here is terrible. If I was just on broadband, we wouldn't be having this conversation, to be honest. I'd pay like £100 a month to get like acceptable levels of internet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the internet in Worcestershire absolutely stinks. It's terrible. Unless you pay for fibre, then it's great.
It would be really great if you had a friend who worked for a TV broadband and talk company who may be able to help you.
Well, I happen to be subscribed to that particular brand. And
what's that? Sorry, Arn. We're quickly moving on. Sorry. No. But yeah, so the Championship Manager, the party is obviously the experience in terms of that. You've got your Roma save, and obviously you're thinking of doing a new one when you get the new laptop. Very excited to see the screenshots about that.
I remember having I had one friend that, like, you'd have these kind of fleeting kind of, oh, my battery is dying. 2 seconds.
Oh, while we do that, while Alan finds his charger,
Alan Reynolds, big shout out to Worcestershire sauce.
Yeah, big shout out.
Right.
I'm a big fan.
Okay, so carry on, Alan.
This laptop, as I mentioned, I'm getting a new one. This one, the battery is on its last leg. So once I get that warning of the battery's about to die, like, I have like split seconds before I need to get that thing plugged in, or it's just going to go dead on me. So, but it seems to be all right. Yeah, like, I had one friend that I had a bunch of friends that would kind of, they play it, but they didn't, quote, take it seriously. You know, everyone knows what I mean. Like, it was the same with, like, playing with your Hasbro wrestling figures when you were a kid. Like, you'd have your friends that didn't take it seriously, and they'd just come over and smash the things together. Whereas, like, I'd be wanting to do moves and book storylines, and I was like, no, this guy can't do this move. It doesn't make sense, you know? So, like, I was the same with Championship Manager. Like, I wanted to, like, invest proper time into it and go through the like, spend time on each, like, basically not have a rush, you know, just like things would be taught through. And like most kids weren't really.
We usually had like there was two methods of playing Championship Manager. There was the version where you went around your mate's house, and basically there'd be like 3 or 4 of you in the room with different teams, and they'd try and rush you through it quickly. And there's when you're at your house, when you could basically sit there for 7 hours looking at the squad, which was that was the two ways of playing it.
The really good thing, which I had, was a third way, and then I had one friend who was like me, and he would be methodical with it, like I was, and we would go over to each other's house, and this was through like later versions, like 2002, 2003, and we would just spend like days, like during the summer when we should have been outside and stuff, and we'd spend hours and hours and hours, day after day, just playing Championship Manager and going seasons deep. And we'd be setting, like, it'd come up to me to set my squad numbers, and he'd like,
oh no,
he'd like go and do something because he knew I'd spend 20 minutes doing my squad numbers, and then like he'd be going to, like, it would come to him to like do X, Y, or Z, and I'd give him plenty of time to do it. I was like, we weren't rushing each other. We were like-minded in this. We took our time with our Championship Manager.
I love that JP was convinced we were a Football Manager podcast, and we're like, no, we're not. We don't talk about Football Manager at all. He drops into the chat, and we're talking about Football Manager.
JP, it came around too late. You missed the story of me getting diddled by priests.
This is YouTube, Alan. It's here forever.
Yeah.
But also,
watch JP.
Big shout out for the Columbia jersey, which it's a beauty. I've always wanted that one.
JP, to give you suspense, as I talked about earlier, I got diddled by priests, and it wasn't the Irish Catholic Church. So, you can find out about that if you just go back.
Yeah, this will be on YouTube later, so you can go back and watch.
Yeah. It was,
well, I think the revenue has been thrown out the window for this one. I was actually
some religious order that I thought was dead since Bernie Cunningham gave them a bollocking in 1996. They're actually alive and well, and they're going to come after you guys for this slander. It turned out to be some like major religious order now.
we're in big trouble. So we talked
All
about
I did was laugh about it. I didn't do anything else.
yeah. We just asked what was your first experience of European football. You just went, it's going to take a bit of a dark tangent here, lads.
And I was probably kind to them. I was probably all kinds of repressed memories that I didn't even bring up. So yeah, they did well out of it.
Oh, well,
football.
While I'm going my next question, if anyone has any questions in the chat for Alan, please let us know. Other than about priests, I'm just thinking of Father Ted things now with priests. I need to stop. What was the first? What was the first experience of a football game you went to live? Do you remember much about, or have you never been?
I've been. I haven't been much. It wasn't a big thing. I remember. So the first one, the friend that I mentioned that had the dad that was the sports management guy, he had season ticket for Lansdowne Road.
Okay.
So I would have gone to a few Ireland World Cup qualifiers, friendlies, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I remember specifically the first one I went to, just being in awe of like the actual players are in front of me, like the match is unfolding in front of me. It was like I couldn't wrap my head around that. It was just amazing. But I also kind of didn't really enjoy it in terms of actually watching the match, because I didn't realize how much my enjoyment of football depended on like the camera angles and having the score in the top left corner of the screen and the commentators, just kind of watching it happen with no commentary or anything. I was like, this is kind of cool, but I didn't love it. And there's a wife.
Hi, Sarah.
Trying to sneak downstairs.
Oh no!
She's gone. She had her headphones on, so I don't think she's. Okay.
Well, I'm wondering if she's had her headphones on the entire time. I imagine she knows.
She's shouting to me. What are you saying? She said she's all sweaty. She doesn't want anyone to see her because she was doing a workout next door. So.
Oh. So yeah, you were saying about Lansdowne Road and the experience with that.
Yeah. So the I just kind of like I didn't take a ton from it. Like I wasn't really rushing to go back that often. Like if I'd be invited, I'd be like, yeah, sure, yeah, fine. I remember going to a Newcastle friendly. I remember going to a couple of Newcastle friendlies. So they played Bray Wanderers at the what was their name at their stadium? Began with a W, I think. But they played Bray Wanderers, and I remember getting Warren Barton's autograph before the match. That was cool. Very happy with that turn of events. And then
Carlisle grounds, according to
that's it. Yeah, Carlisle grounds. I don't know why I thought W. Maybe because Wanderers. But then I went to a preseason tournament. One of those kind of gimmicks with Newcastle, PSV Eindhoven.
Oh yeah.
St. Pat's, I think, and then one other team, but it was in.
I love pre-season. Pre-season friendlies are the best. I mean, they're not going to be quite so good this year because people can't travel, but you just get these weird, random teams and players that you'd never see otherwise.
Yeah.
And then I didn't go to many games, and kind of as a teenager and stuff. And most recently, I went to a game in Lansdowne Road became the Aviva. Back in, I think about 10, 11 years ago, something like that. And I went to the Aviva with Sarah for a match. We just decided randomly one day on a whim to get tickets to an Ireland match that was happening that day. And they were playing, I think it was San Marino. No, it was, what's the country that's like part of Spain, but not part of Spain? Kind of. Andorra. Yeah. They played Andorra and just walloped them. And I remember thinking as I was watching that match, I was like, this is way easier to watch and enjoy than I thought it was as a kid. So I think as a kid, I was just so daunted. Just it was all so big around me that I was just too in awe to kind of follow the match and enjoy it. But as an adult being in a match, I was just like, oh, this is good crack. So, but haven't gone back much. I'm not much of a match goer. Like I'm a big NFL fan, and people in work are always like, whenever the London games happen, oh, are you going over to the London game? I'm no interest. I don't know. Live sports has never really been a big thing for me.
Yeah, I kind of love it and hate it at the same time. It's like especially in the. Sorry,
What?
Sarah just telling you to close the door. Yeah, but when it comes to live sport, it's like it's either great or it's terrible.
Yeah.
And I've had some rotten experiences going to live games. Like I waited years and years and years to go to Goodison, and then I finally got the chance to go because I was taking my wife to Liverpool for the weekend. And the game we went to was against Wigan, and it was no goals, and it was terrible, and it was freezing cold. And then when you come out the ground, there's millions of you, so that you can't get on any public transport because everything's rammed. So we had to walk back into the town centre. It was god awful.
Yeah, I did the NFL experience, the European game, one of the games when the Bears finally came over and lost to the Oakland Raiders, and the experience is kind of, for me, because obviously it's the first time you're going to an NFL game, it's a great experience. But then, like, you do kind of just wish, I was at home certain points of this, especially if you end up losing badly. But yeah,
And like as well, anytime I was going to the UK, it was for like tiny indie shows and leisure centers and sitting board and stuff like that. So I was like, it was kind of hard to answer my work. No, I'm not going to Wembley Stadium to see two giant NFL teams. I've just been to England 4 times in the last 6 months to tiny indie shows with 70 people in the crowd.
Yeah, to be fair, you're a lot closer to the action though. It's
actually on that, I had an absolute blast going to so there was you might not know, but there was a big deal for a couple of years. I forget what the thing was called, but there was this thing where the college, the American football college system had this deal with coming over to Ireland, and they do a big game with like Notre Dame played once, and I think Army and Navy played once. Basically, these sort of college teams with all this history would come over and play a game in Croke Park, and it was a big trip for the students, their families, all this kind of thing. And what happened, I never went to one of those games, but what happened with them is there'd be satellite games that would kind of go on around Dublin in smaller stadiums with smaller colleges and even some high schools that would kind of piggyback over on the trips. And when me and Sarah lived in a place called Donnybrook, which is kind of just south of the city centre, like 15 minutes away in the car away from the city centre, and there's a very kind of well-known rugby stadium there where Leinster would have played a lot of their games, and it's small enough, but it would host these games for like high school. It would typically be like you'd get a high school game and then a college game, and it would be like 7 hours on a Friday, be like Friday Night Lights type stuff, and it was always like late August, early September, where it was still kind of a bit of stretch in the evenings. So it was cool. Like I'd finish up work and we'd go on down to this, and it was a blast. Like I remember just the atmosphere being really fun at those. So that's honestly like, in terms of like live sporting events, randomly enough, that might be the one I've had the most fun at. But before the pandemic, I had one planned which I think would have been pretty awesome, but sadly it didn't happen. Me and Sarah had an Italy trip planned, and we were going to be going to Cagliari, Sardinia, but before that we were going to spend a couple of days in Milan, and it was going to coincide with Milan's last game of the season last year in the San Siro, so May 2020. So like that would have been really cool to go see a game in the San Siro. I'm sure that would have been just and it was there was talk it would have been Zlatan's last game at that point. I guess he came back and played another season, but there was definitely talk around the time when I was getting tickets and stuff like that organized that it was going to be his last game. So I was very excited about doing that, but sadly, like with a lot of things last year, couldn't happen.
Yeah, I know, because it was I think it's the Emerald Classic, because I know they do the games. It's the Emerald Isle Classic. I remember that because my girlfriend was wanting to come over at some point and experience one of them, because she's a big Notre Dame Fighting Irish fan. So I know about that. In terms of other sports other than that, so football, obviously from that time period, NFL. Were there any other sports you were interested in, or any other sports you had other than wrestling?
Tennis was big. I loved watching tennis. I got big into much like how I really rooted on the English soccer team in the 90s because they had all the players I knew and loved.
Did that make you unpopular?
No, other kids were like that as well. Like, I know, probably parents, like grown men, probably thought we were just absolute, scum of the earth. They were probably disgrace their children. My dad wouldn't have cared. He wouldn't know one way or the other. As we said, he wasn't into football at all. But like I'd say, I'm sure I had some friends dads who were like, "You better stop cheering for England right now." But like a bunch of us loved England. Like Euro '96, I did a podcast with the Link to the Cast boys last year after we watched all the Euro '96, and like I was talking, I was rooting on England during that as much as they were. Well, Jack specifically as the Englishman on that. With that, I also was massively into Tim Henman, and I was all about Hen Mania running wild in the late '90s, early 2000s. Would have loved to have been on Henman Hill. Really wanted him to win Wimbledon. So was big into tennis, followed tennis, but playing tennis was probably the sport I was like best at, and was the one I probably put the most hours into. Just played a lot of tennis really through to kind of my early 20s, and I coached for a while, and then kind of once I started working full time, it just kind of fell into the background a little bit. But now myself and Sarah joined a club early last year, but just before the pandemic. So it's been open for most of the time. During the more intense lockdowns, it was closed, but we've managed to be playing a decent amount in the last 18 months. It's nice to get a tennis racket back in my hands and get back playing tennis. But that was always a fun sport. And like I watched pretty much everything. Like I went through a phase of watching cricket, watched all the big golf tournaments. Honestly, strangely enough, and JP will be very disappointed in me here now. Though the only sort of sports I didn't care about were the GAA. Did not care about football or hurling. Just they weren't interested to me at all. They weren't stars. They weren't professional stars. I didn't care. These amateurs.
Yeah.
Whereas now I follow very little sport nowadays, pretty much none. But if I was going to sit down and watch a game of anything, it would probably be hurling or football, because I have massive respect for these lads now that they're amateurs. There's, like they get rewarded in certain ways. Don't get me wrong. Cushy jobs, that kind of a thing, but they are very much playing for the love of the game, and there's a lot of county pride in there and everything. So it's a cool deal. But when I was a kid, I was like, I don't know, random Dublin footballer or Roberto Baggio, Alessandro Del Piero.
Yeah, I think the one experience I had was listening to James's podcast where he did an entire bit at the beginning, which was related to Irish GA type sport, and it was very interesting to hear that. You talked about kind of going back. Obviously, you did where you went and watched Euro '96 in terms of that. What was your experiences, and what made you decide to kind of do that? And what did you enjoy about it?
I loved that last summer when the Euros were cancelled. So ITV were just like, yeah, we're just going to put Euro '96 every game up on the ITV player. And I think they aired the big England and Scotland games and the final. I think they aired them on like a proper TV channel. But all the other games were put up on the iPlayer. They'd load up one every day, and or a couple every day. But that was the first international tournament that, as I mentioned, USA '94, I was really into, but I was learning about football. That was the tournament that kind of got my knowledge built up about football. So I was kind of pretty raw going into that. And then by summer '96, like I mentioned earlier, like I just knew everything about everyone in football, and I was obsessed with it. Like my copybooks in school would be like the backs of those copybooks would be littered with like Serie A dream team, top 10 strikers in Europe, like all these things I'd just be writing down. And I remember like being at my granny's house with some of my cousins, and we would draw little jerseys of every team, like Premiership, Serie A. We draw the little jerseys, color them in, cut them out, and have like a name on the back of. So it'd be like, oh, I'm doing Middlesbrough. Okay, Janino, and he'd be like, oh, I'm doing Crystal Palace, Chris Armstrong. So like, just so obsessed with it. And Euro '96 was really at that sweet spot of it. So we're 11, and it was such a big deal when it came around. Like I had bought my little 3 lines tape, which is here somewhere. I'm not going to go root it out right now. But my 3 lines tape from the Lightning Seeds and Badil and Skinner played that nonstop around the house. My parents must have just been like, "What is this?" But they were probably constantly thinking that with me. So yeah, just was massively into England on that, and but just every match was like appointment viewing, and just such strong memories. And again, to relive them last summer was so cool. I honestly thought when ITV were saying they'd be doing this, I was like, oh, I'll watch a couple of those matches. That'll be fun nostalgia. And then after watching 1 or 2, I was like, right, I'm watching every single one of these. This is just too much fun. I had a blast with it. Like, it was especially cool for like the bigger games. They'd upload all the studio punditry that was there before and at halftime.
Oh, really?
After that. So that was a real kind of. It was really cool to kind of go back and see kind of what there was one awesome one where they had Kevin Keegan and Alex Ferguson sitting beside each other, and this was like 2 months after I'd Love It If We Beat Them, and they were being all friendly banter, and you could smiling through gritted teeth, but you could tell Ferguson was all like smug, kind of.
He's done him, isn't he?
And Kevin Keegan was all like smiling but thinking, I hate you. So that was really cool going back and seeing that. Maybe some things didn't really age well, like Ron Atkinson's commentary. Little questionable on many occasions. Everyone obviously remembers the Marcel Desailly comment that got Ron Atkinson fired from ITV, but there was plenty from that same cut of cloth that was popping up throughout Euro '96 commentary that just really didn't catch on in the way that Marcel Desailly thing did. But I was cringing quite a few times listening to the commentary.
Davor Suker, after just mentioned in the chat, Davor Suker, a wonderful left foot.
Oh,
what a player!
Suker was so good. He had a great tournament. I loved the Portugal team that year. Figo, Paulo Sousa, Sa Pinto, João Pinto. They were a great team. Karol Poborski on Czech Republic was awesome. Pavel Nedved. I did a team of the tournament. I think I still have it actually on my desktop. Let me see here. No, sad. Oh, I do. I have it here. My Euro '96 team of the tournament that I did. So I had David Seaman in goal. Gary Neville, right back. He was fantastic. Christian Ziga, left back. So two fullbacks just capable of just marauding the flanks, but also good solid defenders. And then my defense to complete the English Germany back 5 here. We have Tony Adams and Thomas Helmer, who was a guy you don't really think of Thomas Helmer, but when I was going back and watching these games, I was like, this guy was incredible. Like, he was just so good, both in defense, but also like starting play from the back. He was fantastic. And sitting in front of them, I'd have Marcel Desailly, and then in front of him, I'd have in my midfield, kind of my midfield engine room, I'd have Radek Babel and Pavel Nedved, all Czech Republic engine room there in midfield. And then flanking my lone striker on the right, I'd have Karol Poborski.
Nice.
And on the left, I have Yuri Djorkaeff. And then my lone striker, of course, we talked about the disappointments, the worst day of my childhood when Andy Cole left Newcastle. But the best day of my childhood when the man himself, Alan Shearer, number 9, joined Newcastle, 15 million. And he was of course fantastic in that tournament. It was maybe a month after the tournament that he joined. And another random childhood memory, I was at a lad's house. We'll remember a name here again, James Mulvaney. James, if you're watching, shout out. But James was not a football fan at all. James, I remember going to his house, and it was like, you'd have the kind of you'd arrange, like, as the Americans call them, play dates. Do you guys call them play dates in the UK?
Oh no, I just had mates.
I mean, yeah,
but like when you'd arrange to go, like, there was no real term for it in Ireland, but I know in the US it's a play date is a big term. But because I remember having someone that moved over from the US that became a friend of mine when I was a kid, and his younger sister became a friend of my sister's, and they were always like, "Oh, we need to arrange a play date," and their mom was like, "Oh, we need to have a play date." And I was like, "What is this play date, Bob?" But so I had a play date at James Mulvaney's house, and he was not a football fan at all. He wanted to play his new Mariah Carey album that he had gotten. Mariah Carey was a big deal in 1995. What was the song? Sweet, Sweet Fantasy Baby. That song.
Oh my God, Arn!
I remember sitting there, kind of listening to Mariah Carey on his like stereo, and just being like, "This is grim. Can we like play football or something?" I was so bored, and we wandered off to a different room, and the TV was on, and it was, I don't know, Sky News or something was on, and Alan Shearer signs with Newcastle was on the screen, and I was like, and he was like, "Come on, let's go listen to more Mariah Carey or something." And I was like, you go away. I am done with you now for today.
Play date is over, sir.
I was like, this is all that's happening in my world. If you do not want to be a part of this Alan Shearer signs with Newcastle world, I have no room for you right now. And I was just then the worst house guest for the rest of that play day, because it was all I cared about. I just wanted to get home and talk to my other friends that were into football, and yeah, because he was supposed to sign for United. That was the big rumors. All my Man United friends were all geared up for Alan Shearer, but we got him instead. So I wanted to gloat. I wanted to go play football with my mates and gloat about Newcastle getting Alan Shearer. I wanted to bang in some goals, and I wanted to run around doing the Alan Shearer celebration. But I was stuck there having to listen to Mariah Carey for a couple more hours.
That's horrible. Was he replaying it? Was he just playing it over and over again?
I remember listening to a bunch of it. I was just not into it. Music wasn't really a thing. We talked about my obsessions like wrestling and football, and I really wasn't into the arts, so to speak.
I wouldn't classify Mariah Carey as the arts. I think you're all right on that one.
I had my first tape I got was before the Lightning Seeds. My first tape I got was the Out Here Brothers, Boom Boom Boom, Let Me Hear You Say Wow.
Wow. See, in terms of, so obviously, I just want to quickly ask, in terms of, I'm going to take a tiny bit of wrestling, not too much into it. Who, in terms of your 96, would you say were the baby faces of the tournament, and who would you say were more the heels of the tournament?
Well, absolutely at the time, England heels, England faces, Germany heels.
Heels, 100%. Yes. For me, yes, absolutely, because my nation didn't have a good Euro 96.
Eddie, and I apologize for this, because Scotland were a cool team that year, and Gary McAllister was unbelievable in the few games they played. He was he was one of the best players in the whole tournament, but it was just they only had 3 games. But
Mm.
I remember so rooting against Scotland in that England-Scotland game and being so happy when Gaza scored. And like
Lad on. Good lad.
now I'm like, that's just awful. It's like, because Scotland are way cooler than England. Like that England team were just like, look at this. This was just like the behavior before the tournament, the arrogance they carried themselves with, the flip-flopping of the punditry and everything, where like they were and the newspapers were like, they were the most hated. They were given out about them, and then they got that win against Holland, and then it's like, oh, this is the best England team ever. Shades of 1966. We're going all the way, and total disregard for all these other teams.
So good against Holland, though. So good against Holland. That's one of the best England performances I've ever seen. Holland kind of fell apart a little bit, but like it was just
Holland were as Eamon Dunphy said when there was an argument about how good England were in that, and Eamon Dunphy was scoffing at it, and he was like, that Holland team, the black players and the white players wouldn't speak to each other. How are they supposed to be? How is that a good win over that team? Half the players weren't speaking to each other. So it was I don't know. Maybe that England performance wasn't as impressive as it might have seemed at the time, but in hindsight, watching it back last year, England had turned heel. They were heels for me, and the faces were probably Scotland were pretty strong faces. Germany were still kind of heels, to be honest. They were like scraping through every match, with just riding so much luck. Czech Republic were the baby faces. 100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I got to see the Czechs at that tournament. I went to see the game against Italy, and I always have very fond memories of it because Paolo Maldini, they were coming to the tournament, and Maldini, he's the best defender in the world, absolute best defender. Nobody can touch him. And Karl Poborski had him on toast at Anfield. He absolutely destroyed him. So, I really enjoyed the Czechs in that tournament. If they'd have won it, I'd have had absolutely no problem with that.
I mean,
but Germany won, didn't they? So.
I mean, I'm still kind of disgusted by the image of Gascoigne in the dentist chair after that goal. It's kind of stuck in my brain as being one of the most disgusting images I think I'll ever see in my life as a Scotland fan. Euro 96, the baby faces and the heels, we know about that. What kind of grew you out of football then, Alan? Because obviously we said we were talking about obviously up to 2002. Was it just a case of, oh my God, wrestling is going to be the be all and end all, or was it just a case of this is getting a bit boring, lads?
Yeah, I think probably so. When Keegan left Newcastle, that was a real sad moment for me. I was very as for a lot of Newcastle fans, so that was a real gut punch. And Kenny Dalglish came in, and for the second half of that 96-97 season, it was still all right. Like, Dalglish didn't have the warmth about him that Keegan had. But he kept the team more or less as it was, and they were still playing good football, and they ended up finishing second that year and got into the Champions League, which was cool. Which led to the man on the back of my jersey, Tino Asprilla, scoring his hat-trick against Barcelona the following year, winning 3-2, one of the great Newcastle performances. But that season, though, 97-98, Dalglish just ripped us apart. Sold Ginola, sold Ferdinand, sold Robbie Elliott, who was like a guy you might just hand wave, but Robbie Elliott was a top player for the team. And just a bunch of my favorites he got rid of. And he like replaced them with like 36-year-old John Barnes, who was terrible. And a bunch of other Silvio Maric, John Dal Thomason.
Yeah, I was just about to say John Dal, FM legend at that point, John Dal Thomason.
Yeah, and these guys just did not work out at all. And then he left pretty quickly, Dalglish, and he was replaced by Ruud Gullit. That got even worse. And Ruud Gullit and Shearer didn't get along at all. And it was dour times there for a year or two. Shearer busted his knee in a pre-season, and he was out for most of probably 98, 99 or 99, 2000, whichever it would have been. But anyway, Hullet goes early in a season, and in comes the knight in shining armor, someone who I wasn't really familiar with. I was confused because I heard about Bobby Robson coming in, and I just kind of knew Brian Robson because Bobby Robson hadn't been around management. He wasn't managing any kind of Premiership team in my time. And like when I became a football fan, it was after he had been England manager.
You'd have missed the England run, yeah.
Yeah, completely missed it. So I didn't really know much about it, but it was like everyone was like, "Oh, he's a real Geordie. He loves Newcastle." So I was kind of like, "Oh, well, we'll see how this guy does." And it took a little bit of time, but he definitely turned the feeling around, and within a season, he had turned the team around completely. And the first couple of full seasons he was there, it was so good. Like he got us right back up the table into Europe and had assembled this whole new team. Whereas, like, there was like the great 95, 96, 96, 97 team. In the like next 4 years, you were kind of dealing with, it's been dismantled, and you had just the scraps left of it, and Shearer trying to hold it down. But then Bobby Robson essentially built this whole new team, and it wasn't these flops coming in. It was these great young guys that you saw get better from the start. Kieran Dyer, Jermaine Genius, Craig Bellamy, and Alberto Solano. He was fantastic. Who else?
Clarence Acuna.
Clarence Acuna, not so much. I don't think he did. I don't think he did too well. Shea Given in goals was immense. Like, talk about a rock of a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But so that team was awesome, and Shearer was still there, of course. So yeah, like I was big into it again in 2002, 2003, and that would have been around the time I was big into listening to staticky Radio 5 Live, because for us on the radio, that was coming all the way across the ocean to us. So yeah, it was Lauren Robert, great shout. How could I forget Lauren Robert? Thank you, Ivan.
Oh, yeah.
Lauren Robert was, what a player. He had a performance of just an all-timer performance at Highbury to beat Arsenal in Christmas time, probably 2002, I want to say. Oh, it was just sublime. Newcastle never won at Highbury. Just did not happen. Lauren Robert won a game at Highbury that year, and he was great. But yeah, like I just got really big into it again. As I was saying, I was listening to games on 5 Live and stuff, holding the radio at the right angle out the window to try and hear what was going on. There was an epic 4-3 against Leicester, which kind of helped kind of some of the heartache that was still there from a certain 4-3, 2 4-3s, in fact, that we won't acknowledge from 96, 97. We don't want to talk about those.
We won't talk about those.
No, we should talk about 5-0 from 1997.
Yes.
A little Philippe Albert. Just that was the best day. Watching that in a room full of United fans and their parents who were also United fans. There was more kissing of the crest that day for sure. But yeah, that was I probably remember all the goals. It was like, first one was Darren Peacock, a header. Then it was Ginola cutting in from the left and hitting a banger with his right foot. Then you had Ferdinand and Shearer, and I can't remember what order they came in, one after the other. And then number 5 was Albert. So yeah, that was the best day ever as a Newcastle fan. We may not have won 95-96 league, but we got some sweet revenge with the 5-0, and that felt good. But yeah, fast forward again to 02-03, and Bobby Robson just really made a great team. And it was when they got rid of Bobby Robson, that really, like, I just didn't understand why they got rid of him. Like, he was still doing really well, but they just wanted to make a change. He thought he was too old. I just thought it was incredibly unfair, and they were never. It was just downhill after they got rid of Souness in for a while. That the years with Michael Owen just didn't work out at all, and then they got relegated in like 2009. But I mean, 2002 is when I discovered indie wrestling. 2003-4 is when I discovered Japanese wrestling. 2005 is when I'm on message boards for wrestling every day. Like at that point, my interest in football was just slowly kind of evaporating.
Well, as a Newcastle fan, you basically saw the best bit.
Yeah, and then like Mike Ashley and his crew came in and took over the team and just became really unlikable. And just football in general became a bit unlikable for me. I didn't find the games as exciting anymore. I don't want to be like, oh, money ruined football type guy, but I don't know. There was all the big money that came into football. Kind of just took my innocent love of football. Kind of like just when teams could like have just. It's obviously a point that's been beaten to death, but just the idea that like a big rich owner could come in and take a Man City from 2 divisions down and just boost them up through the leagues and have them win the
Don't
league.
let me break out the spreadsheet. I'll do it.
Oh, what's the spreadsheet?
There's a spreadsheet of how much money Man City has spent since they got taken over.
Yeah. That's again why I say like now if I was to get invested in something, it'd be more likely to be hurling or football, Gaelic football as opposed to soccer as we say over here, because there's no real money involved in that. It's just county versus county, amateur players, sport. Yeah, sport. There you go. But and as well a reason why I really like tennis still, because it doesn't matter. Like obviously bigger players and stuff can kind of get better training and stuff like that. But I mean,
you can't buy a better arm, can you? It's pure athleticism.
The talents, the athleticism, the putting the time in. Like it's one person. Golf's the same. It's one person. Whereas,
I do kind of like the idea behind football being such a team sport that even if you spend like 1.7 billion on your team, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to win everything, because it's been proved this season where they spent all this money and they still couldn't beat Chelsea. They still didn't win the FA Cup. That was Leicester. So they won the league, but
Leicester
you don't win everything.
The Leicester story is my favorite thing in football. From
that is a very strong point there from Rian. Alan Shearer, world record signing 15 million. You get David McGoldrick.
I'm going to correct you. 1996, not 1995. And I have gimmicks I wanted to introduce to the show. And I have one in my hand that Rian has given me the perfect transition to. So if you can see this on screen.
Oh, there we go. All its beauty.
It's your FA Premier League football file with Jamie Redknapp, Darren Anderson, Ruud Gullit on the front. And there's a bunch of stuff basically for you to fill in throughout the thing. And I have here, this is so apt that Rian got the date wrong, because I can categorically disprove it with this page here. As you see, lovely handwriting. Hopefully you can read.
Yeah, there you go. A Shearer. 29,696, 15 million.
15 million. There you go. Look at that handwriting. And then look on the next page. Notes.
Alan Shearer's transfer is not only a oh my goodness.
Exclamation point at the end.
I can't believe you still got that.
And
that's amazing.
I've got let's see what else I have. Here's a look at us playing football as kids at the Mexicans.
Oh no! Have you got a shirt on there? Or...
No, it's a page in the thing, Arn, where it's the players are shirtless and you're supposed to draw your shirt of your team. So I just wrote Newcastle on the top, and I was too lazy to actually draw the shirt. But I have on this your favorite team, and it's my team, Newcastle United Stadium, St. James's Park, Look at that. What a smart kid. I had the apostrophe at the end of James's. That's good going. Manager, Kevin Keegan. Youth manager, Terry McDermott. So I knew my stuff. Let me see. Do I have anything else in here? My favorite team is Newcastle, and then I obviously got quite bored here with the fixture list. I put in one game, Everton away, and I didn't even fill in the results or put in. It's a real shame. Like, this really would have been right up my alley. I'm 1997, the Heart Foundation was big, so like that had me distracted. That whole USA Canada thing was going on, so I didn't get to fill out my. Alan Coonan, age 11, birthday June 2nd. Favorite team, Newcastle. Favorite player. Can you guess who I have as my favorite player?
Rob Lee.
I'll give you. No, this goes to show why I hated Kenny Dalglish so much.
Okay.
The Ginola?
Faustino?
I've taken you off the full screen, haven't I?
Les Ferdinand.
Les Ferdinand. Favorite football position, midfield. Best result, Newcastle 1, Liverpool 0, round 4 of the Coca-Cola Cup away. What a game, I guess.
Hey, you must have had some kind of memories of it or something.
Personal info, my address of the house that my parents sold in 2016, but I will keep that to myself. Special notes. I'm going to block out. The address here. Hopefully, you can read special notes underneath.
Hang on, let me put you back on the full screen. Newcastle are classed.
Oh.
So then we have. I started doing something here on season 95, 96, and then just scratched it all out. But then I have it on the next page. So champions, runners-up, Coca-Cola Cup on the next page. Cup winners, Paris Saint-Germain. In brackets, I have F or A in case someone was reading this.
Wasn't familiar with Paris being in France.
Needed to reassurance. Champions League winners, Juventus in brackets ITA. Runners up, Ajax in brackets NED. Top scorer, Alan Shearer, Blackburn. Bordeaux were the runners up in the UEFA Cup. I don't think there's much else in here. Addresses. Oh, amazing! What a callback to earlier in the show.
Oh no, is that someone?
That's the lad? That's the lad who, he's the lad who ran away after I beat him at tennis and hit the ball at the umpire. So I never even wrote down his address. The friendship was over. I think, I think that's everything that's in the old football file. There's a word search here at the back. Great fun was had. I'm surprised it's not more filled out, to be honest. But got a couple other gimmicks. I found this here. It's not quite sensible soccer, but European champions.
Oh, okay.
PC game. Looks
is that
pretty
the Marseille?
sweet.
Is that the Marseille side that cheated almost in essence on the front cover? I think it looks like it.
Very possible.
Yeah, it looks like it.
We've got, this is back in the day, Eddie, I'm going to blow your mind here.
Oh, God, no.
We had this on a floppy disk.
Oof. What's one of those?
Always great to do this gimmick, slide in the top. Enjoyed that. Bonus here, we have 2 sloppy disks. The old hooky copy that my dad obviously did for me. The hooky copy of Sim City Disc 1 and Disc 2. Thanks, Dad. Wasn't into the football, but he was good for a hooky copy of SimCity.
We don't advocate software piracy, if anyone.
Yeah. What's that book? Oh, that looks very interesting. Oh, there we go.
Premier Manager 3.
Oh, man.
Gremlin were the... So yeah, they didn't quite make it as big as the Championship Manager, unfortunately.
No, it didn't.
Here we've got the earlier mentioned So one key thing of my childhood with football that I haven't mentioned is Match magazine. I
Okay.
was a big Match fan and didn't like Shoot. Shoot was too wordy and proper for me. I was more into the off-brand humor of Match magazine. You know, the edginess of the stuff that you'd get with Match. But
Speech bubbles usually, wasn't it, Match?
speech bubbles, and you didn't just get a poster in Match. You got the mega poster.
Oh, there we go. Robert Lee,
Nice.
2 caps
You-
for England, 1 goal.
You'd get the little fact file and everything. On the back, you do get a standard enough poster as well. Chris Waddle.
Oh, yeah.
Rian talks about missing the physical tutorial booklets you used to get with games. I don't get many computer games anymore. I don't do a lot of gaming, and every time I've got a game in like the last 6 years, and it doesn't come with a manual, I always forget that. I'm like, where's the manual? And then it's like, oh, for the manual, go to this website. And I'm
I
like,
don't do that anymore.
that's so strange.
Yeah.
Save the trees.
Save the
Here's
trees, indeed. Oh, what have you got for us now?
Oh, there's more.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, a couple of the Newcastle lads in their casual wear. Rob Lee, Keith Gillespie, Steve Howie. Look at the man in the middle. Shaka
Oh.
Hislop, legend. Ginola, Peter Beardsley.
I don't recognise him without a really bright goalkeeping jersey on.
Oh, I wanted that goalkeeper jersey so bad, Arn. Now you got a couple of scumbags on the back here. Boo.
Oh, dear.
I mean, that one on the left beside Brian Giggs. The one beside Brian Giggs.
Oh yeah. Brian Giggs and Andrew Cole.
So one quick thing I just wanted to ask, or have you got anything else?
I'll give you one more. I'll give you one more. Oh, two. I'll give you 2 more just because I mentioned them. I promise.
Okay.
I promised them. Here's some.
Oh, hang on. Let me put you back on her.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, Raw Fox.
Raw Fox mega poster action.
Raw Fox. All 5 foot of him. That's life size. That is.
Speaking of UNB on the back.
Oh, singing.
Then, because of course, I've got Aspria on the back of the jersey. I would be remiss if I didn't give you.
Oh.
Himself. And lads, I honestly think I'm just planning on watching the AEW pay-per-view tonight. I don't think I'm going to be able because I might die at some point this evening from toxic poisoning from the stale 25-year-old blue tack that's on the back of these posters.
Yeah, blue tack lasts forever.
It absolutely reeks. It smells like the most toxic thing in the world. I can't get it out of my nose now. So, oh, yeah, but it was worth it.
Yeah. So quickly, just quickly moving on. Yeah, we love everything you do, Alan. You're gonna obviously be doing. You were telling us before you're interested in watching. You're gonna be watching the Euros this year.
Yeah, I'm still listening, by the way. I'm just cracking open a window because seriously, I'm going to die here.
Completely fine. While he's doing that, if you have not done so already, click and subscribe. What are you doing? Like the video, do the stuff like that. Alan has a Kimini tweet. Ivan McGann's just realised you've got your clock in the bag.
At Sarah's, this is Sarah's office, so that's her Kemanito clock. I have various other assorted Kemanito merchandise around the house. We did a big bulk order from the man himself last year. Pleasure to deal with.
So I'm going to ask the 4 questions, and then obviously these are the 4 questions that we ask most guests. I think the answers you've already given us. It'll be kind of quick fire in terms of that. So favorite player of all time, and just you don't need to. You can name obviously one of the ones you named before. You could name one of the world-class athletes, or maybe the one that's on Arn's shirt. Who is your favorite player of football of all
time? Probably Alan Shearer.
Okay, Alan Shearer.
Just because he bridged the 2 big eras of my Newcastle fandom. He was such a big part of both those teams. So probably have to go Shearer.
Okay, Alan Shearer. Favorite tournament you watched? I'm gonna assume Euro '96 might be the answer for this, but was there any others that maybe could pip it?
France 98 was good, but the two that probably stand out to me as the ones I enjoyed the most are Euro 96 and Japan Korea 2002.
That was a good
Go with
tournament.
those two.
That was a good tournament.
Yeah.
Okay. I liked when
corrupt as all hell. It was just an absolute. it was ridiculous, but it was good fun.
Lest we forget Roy Keane running off home. Favorite manager.
Keegan, absolutely. Oh well, sorry, Sir Bobby, and Keegan 1A.
Okay, and Sir Bobby was that kind of rebuild after they had after Newcastle had been ripped apart. I take it, and then obviously Keegan was for the good times and stuff. And there he is.
Yeah. Keegan's return to Newcastle didn't work out so well. But quick aside, I do remember being blown away by going to Newcastle for UFC with my dad, who not a wrestling or UFC fan either, but he was he made the sacrifice to go on a nice father-son bonding trip with me over to see UFC Joe Stevenson versus BJ Penn in Newcastle in January of 2008. And it was the week Keegan signed back with Newcastle, and they were playing Bolton that day. And we didn't go to the game. I don't know why we didn't go, to be honest. Again, me and live football, I just didn't really push for it, but we probably should have. But we did a tour of the stadium before in the morning just to kill a bit of time. And but around the town, everybody was wearing Newcastle jerseys with Keegan on the back.
Okay.
And he just after he had come back 3 days earlier, so this was going to be his first game. So, they loved themselves from Kevin Keegan,
and that's why you kind of loved him as well at that point. Favorite football shirt that you own or that you wear, or that when you saw it you were in, oh my god, this is beautiful, I must have this, or I wish I had it?
Oh, I wanted that Chaka Hislop one so bad. But
there's more than one. I was trying to find the specific one, but there's
the my favorite is the one that was kind of blue and purple and gray would be the one that I particularly loved. But I had
that one.
Yeah, that's. Well, actually, no, it wasn't that one. That one was cool too. There's one with a bit of purple in it that I loved. But the jerseys I had, the Newcastle jerseys I had, which, as we mentioned, could be that one. But as we mentioned earlier, with the Man United yellow and green one, me getting jerseys was just not a thing that my parents were computing at all. So they were not spending that kind of money. By the time I got as big into Newcastle as I did, and I was like, birthday present, I want a jersey. At that point, when you're making the call for it as a birthday present, they kind of have to be, oh, if it's what you want, it's what you want.
There you go.
Same thing, maybe like a Christmas present. So it
would have been end of season as well. So if you ask for them, because your birthday being at the end of the season, you get that discount on it.
Yeah, true. And I wouldn't have been someone who was too hung up on having the new jersey or anything like that. I just would have wanted a jersey, was cool for me. But getting a name and number on the back was a big thing for me, and that was really hard to do back then. You had to go to the Man United shop in Arnott's in town, which just setting foot in the Man United shop was just a dirty experience to me. So I was going in at my Newcastle jersey to get, on my first one, I got on the back of it 11 Ginola. And then my second one, I got Aspria. Sorry, 14 Ginola. And then on my second one, I got 11 Aspria. So those were my two Newcastle jerseys from the 90s. I think I got a later one from maybe 2000 or 2001 kind of time. And then just in the last couple of years, I just got really into just buying random jerseys when I see good offers going. And so I have a friend who always texts me when he sees a random offer for a unique jersey. And so I've got Sarah got me a Japan jersey for when we went over to Japan for my birthday one year. So I have a Japan jersey. Then I have Roma jersey thank you to Mike Kilby for that, with Hidetoshi Nakada on the back of that one. I've got a Denmark jersey, nothing on the back of that. I've got this Aspria one, long sleeve Aspria Columbia jersey, which cost only £20. No, £12. And I think it was. Well, I remember my friend got one. We both got one. So we ordered two, and like the shipping was like £8 or something like that. But we got two jerseys sent over, so very good bargain from, I think it was M&M Direct maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I got an Ivory Coast jersey there recently because it was on the cheap, and I feel like I'm missing one. So a couple of jerseys.
So you kind of, as you've kind of grown, you've kind of just, if you find one or you see it, you just kind of went, well, I'll have it. I've got a Colombia one as well. I think I got caught. It was during the World Cup, and I got picked out about it on Progress's stream by Smallman because I was wearing a Colombia shirt. So yeah, that was the thing.
Vaguely remember that actually. Now that you say it.
Yeah, I started doing a kind of reference towards powder. But yeah, that's progress for you. Anyway, moving quickly on and not talking about things that suck. Fat Alan, you're going to be doing stuff on. Obviously, you're going to try and watch every game of Euro 2020, or are you going to give that a miss? You're not going to do your 96 one for 2020?
No, absolutely not. Well, who knows? Maybe I'll get maybe it'll be really good from the start, and
it's only about 60 games.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot of jobber matches in there, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know about some of it, but I'll try and follow along. I don't know a ton of the players. That's a big problem. So it's not like, again, go back to the idea of when you're a kid, you're a sponge and you just absorb stuff. As an adult, you have other stuff taking up space in your brain, you know. So like I can't just have my brain just absorb football as the only thing for a month. So I'll try and get into it. I'm sure there'll be a couple of players that catch my eye and that I enjoy watching, and a couple of teams that kind of come out of nowhere that I enjoy. Who's the dark horse team? That's like what you always want to know going into a tournament. Who's the dark horse for this?
Arn, you've got your spreadsheet going on.
Yeah, I don't know. That's hard to say, to be honest with you, because France are the favourites.
Okay, they were really good in the.
They've got ridiculous depth in every position. They've got incredible quality. It's going to be hard to see and get beat. I looked at the bookies.
Do they have any of the typical French squad kind of not getting along with each other drama going on?
Well, yeah, they've got Benzema in there.
So Karim Benzema, who plays for Real Madrid, he's been out of the France squad for a good couple of years because of a allegation about a sex tape or something like that. There's something going on. I do agree with Rian. I think Italy are dark horses because they've started to finally get a good team together and seem to have a good cohesion. Although, to be fair, I kind of want Scotland to at least either draw or beat England. If we can draw or beat England and not lose to them in Euros, that'd be great. But
when I did my spreadsheet, Italy's squad wasn't out yet, so I haven't actually got any notes on it at all.
No. But yeah.
Did Pierluigi Casaraghi make it, Arn?
Not this year. Belgium are really good. This is probably their last, but we're going to do like a big preview thing for it next week. So
excellent. That will steer me in the right direction. I'll know a bit more about it then.
Yeah, you can watch that. And obviously, we hopefully would love to get you back on talking about other stuff. Just again, more stories. Hopefully,
have you thrown a pin at anyone else?
I've given you my only good stories. I'm at the well is dry now. I gave you the nonsense one. I gave you the Andy Cole pen in the face. My autobiography would be those two stories and really not much else. Became an accountant.
Do you have? Yeah. So before we go, because obviously you've got a pay-per-view to try and watch, and maybe to hopefully survive Blue Tack. Do you have anything? Geez. Do you have anything to plug, Alan, before we suddenly say goodbye to you and never see you again?
I do. I have plugs. So Alan4Al on Twitter. Give me a follow if you don't already. And my home for my work on pro wrestling these days is PW Torch, PW Torch VIP. There's a great sale going on there at the moment. You can get a month subscription for $1.21 to get all access to everything that Wade Keller and team do there. Wade started the Torch back in the late 80s as a teenager, and it's still going strong 30 plus years later. And Wade has done an incredible job of archiving all his old stuff, from old handwritten newsletters that you can read the PDFs of to old radio shows that he kept tape cassettes of and has made them MP3 files. Like, just incredible wrestling history that's on there. It's endless amounts of it that's on there that you can check out. Like, I'm at the moment I'm watching through a bunch of 1993 wrestling, and alongside it, I'm listening to a weekly radio show that the guys were doing in 1993, like talking about these things as they're happening, which is so wild to like listen to. Essentially a wrestling podcast, but it was in 1983 on the radio. So that's crazy. But yeah, loads of modern stuff on there. Everything is covered. And my show, we kind of cover a bit of everything, really. I'm not really into modern wrestling right now, so like just spent a lot of time doing Greatest Wrestler Ever project, which was culminated in a big 8-hour audio over three episodes with Case Lowe and Mike Kilby, where we ran down our ballots, and that was our top hundreds for Greatest Wrestler Ever. So a lot of work went into that. A lot of great discussion came of it, and then yeah, it's about to go up. Probably not today, probably tomorrow will be my latest show, where I had the pleasure this morning of being joined by Alan Blackstock, where we did a show talking about the incredible Bruno Sammartino versus Larry Zbyszko feud of 1980 and everything that went into that. So that was a lot of fun. So yeah, those are the plugs.
Perfect.
Marvelous.
Well,
I'll put those down in the description right next to where you can hit subscribe if you haven't already.
yep,
You are a gent. Thank you.
Listen, Alan, we cannot thank you enough for coming on and chatting to us.
Oh, thank you guys. This was a blast. Thank you for giving me a platform to spout this nonsense that I have in my head. These repressed memories.
Thank you for telling us your
so
stories,
good.
like where you're a therapist about being not diddled or diddled.
I'm not all that bothered. I'm not all that bothered by these things, which is maybe that's the most concerning thing.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about it when we go off air. We will be back tomorrow to talk about the Champions League. Next week begins our kind of build up to Euro 2020 and talking about squads. We'll discuss how we're going to break that down, but I'm sure it'll be quite interesting. Other than that, you can follow me on Eddie Sideburns. You can follow Arn on either one of his numerous Twitters, the @Arn_FM or @ArnFurious. And we will see you all.
That second one's not even right.
Is it not right? What did I get wrong? Is it Arn Furious?
No, it's Arnold Furious. That's my.
Arnold Furious. Okay. He will sometimes review wrestling. Other than that, he doesn't really care. Right. We will see you all tomorrow. And thank you very much for watching. Bye bye. Play the outro. I cannot wait to see Alan's reaction to this. Thank you very much. Bye bye.